May 6, 1983. This is Joe Todd and Judy Michener with an interview with Ann Shadlow. Mrs. Shadlow, where were you born?
I was born in Oklahoma, in Canadian County.
And when's your birthday?
June 6, 1911.
Who was your father?
My father was William Guerrier, Guerrier.
Was he from Oklahoma?
Yes.
Who was your mother?
My mother was a Sioux Indian. She was from South Dakota.
What was her name?
Nellie Adams.
You say you were born in Canadian County?
Mm-hmm.
Around El Reno or?
No, around Geary.
Geary.
Town of Geary was named after my grandfather. They shortened it to Geary.
Who was your grandfather?
Edmund Guerrier. There's a book coming out shortly.
Oh, that's wonderful. Who's doing the book?
The man out east. His name is. I've got a mental block about names and places. Dixon, his name is Dixon, and he's been researching my grandfather now for about 3 years.
Where's your grandfather from?
My grandfather his father was from St. Louis. He was a Frenchman. His mother was Indian.
Did you know your grandfather?
Yes.
What was he like?
My grandfather was mostly not very much Indian, but he was real traditional Indian. They made marriage with a diary from my grandmother, who was a half-breed, and she was William Bent from the old Bent's Fort daughter. That was his daughter. He had all those sons and one daughter, and her mother died at birth, and she was raised by traditional Indian people.
What was her name?
Julia Bent.
Julia Bent.
A lot of history about her too, as well as my grandfather. Dixon has used me for a lot of the background, but I chose long time ago when I was real small to be Indian. I wanted to be Indian, and the rest of the kids didn't. I talk Indian. I talk both languages, my mother's and my father's. I'm losing my mother's because I don't live there, and I don't have anybody to talk to anymore. And
that's the Dakota?
The Sioux.
Sioux.
But I speak Cheyenne real fluently, and I follow the Indian traditions, even with my children. My children are all out for themselves, and they're all, learn to be.
What made you decide to be Indian?
Because I loved my grandmother and my grandfather. I was raised by them, and I choose to be Indian. The other children, my brothers, sisters, they don't speak any Indian, and they don't do the Indian things, they don't keep them. And I instilled in my children all these things that I know, and I spread it all over to other children, and everybody knows me as grandmother. A long time ago, that was traditional, to have a grandmother in the encampment to be everybody's grandmother. That's where everybody went. Everywhere I go, you see little children scamper around me. I have many young people, in their late teens and early 20s that, still cater to me. Many of the things that I wear are given to me by young people.
This is a great honor then,
called grandmother.
Yes, it's an honor to be grandmother. I always say I'm Oklahoma City's traditional grandmother. Even grown people call me grandmother, and that's an honor to me.
Mm-hmm.
A few people say, you know, call me friend. I'm Tonky Eye's aunt. It's traditional for us to choose somebody to be whatever we want him to be, and he calls me aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Get a lot of flack over that, but I'm proud. He's well known everywhere, and he calls me aunt.
Mm-hmm.
This is my aunt.
That's good. Can you tell us about your childhood?
We lived, when I was a month old, my mother took me back to, my mother and father took me back to South Dakota. And that was the last land, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They took me back there and we went and camped. I had land in the Badlands. We camped, she said, they went in the wagon and we camped out there for, I guess, a month before the surveyors came with my half-sister, the older one. The one was next to me. I'm the oldest of my father's children. It was real rocky, and it was in July.
Was this near Bears Butte?
No, it was the middle part, where close to Kadoka.
Do you think the Sioux will,
So I was allotted as a Sioux. I'm on the Sioux roll.
you still have your land up there?
My sister and I sold ours for pennies.
Do you think the Sioux will be able to keep Bears Butte?
That's the Cheyenne.
That's the Cheyenne, that's
that's
right,
the
I'm sorry,
Cheyenne.
that's the Cheyenne.
Bear
getting
Butte
the
belongs
flocks
to the
mixed up.
Cheyenne, so.
Yeah. Because
Well,
South Dakota's trying to make that a state park.
yeah, they're trying to take it away from them,
I
where they
think
won't be able to go. They still go, the Cheyennes go, and they go up in the mountain. If somebody knows they're going, they come and tell me, and I give them material things, and I give them ribbons and strips of cloth to pray for us.
Mm-hmm.
And they take them up there and they pray and they hang them on the trees, you know, like a, what would you call it?
A pilgrimage?
Make sacrifice.
Sacrifice, pilgrimage.
We do that. My grandson, this one that real fair, you know, he researches a lot of things. When, like if I feel bad or something, he says, I miss him, I really miss him. He says, Grandmother, let's go. We go to Mount Scott, we take strips and ribbons, he takes his pipe, we go up there. He offers prayer, long life for my grandmother. And we tie the ribbons, and he smokes his pipe.
Did he make his pipe?
No.
Is it the pipe stone?
Yeah, it's pipe stone.
Yeah.
This boy that is going to move back home, it's Charles's son.
Mm-hmm.
And see, his wife died. This is his second one. And so I took the girl and the boy and I raised them from baby. The boy was 2 months old. He's 20 years old. He got married. They're going to have a baby, so he's coming home next week. They live here, but he wants to come home. He's 20 years old. And so he's going to move back home.
What is the history of Bears Butte? Why is it, I guess, sacred to the Cheyennes?
Well, it's like a fairy tale. You know, it sounds unbelievable, but being brought up in that, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen things performed that would, you know, sound like they were fantasies, but they're not. And long time ago, the kind of life they lived, the Indians was real primitive and they were real religious. And most people think that we pray to, you know, rocks or, you know, idols or things like that, or the sun or something. But it's not true. We pray to the same God that they pray to today. We pray to the unseen spirit, the great spirit. And they would go out and fast, you know, away from everybody. And this artist son of mine has been 5 times to Sundance. He's now a priest. And he's real, he doesn't like for me to tell things.
Where's the Sundance held?
My children are part Rapaho.
Mm-hmm.
Their father was Rapaho.
Yeah.
And so they go to Wyoming. He goes to Wyoming. His aunts, he's got 4 aunts. My children have 4 aunts. And they really love my children. They have many grandchildren, but they love my children, my grandchildren first. I know, because they don't. I do a lot of, you know, Indian things, and I keep them in that category, even though they're out in the public and living with white people. They got white wives, but we still keep our little things. And that's the reason that these older ladies love my children. They do many things for them. If my children are involved in anything, they'll all be coming. They're just having a fit over this little boy. He's going to have a baby, the grandson with green eyes, making a cradle for him. That's not hardly done anymore. They do maybe way back there, but they don't carry them in them. But he wants to carry his baby in the cradle, so they're making a cradle. And they're all coming on the 22nd with gifts. The grandmothers and the cousins. And they don't do that for the other children. They got many kids and and I just feel real rich, because if they're all my children dance, you know, they're all the grandchildren. The boys don't anymore, but they used to. And when they're involved in something like that, all the aunts and cousins come. They'll just stack up stuff we have to give away for the ones that are having an honor, you know, if they're head dancer for something. And they'd even do that for me. My husband's been gone a long time. I raised these kids by themselves. If it's something for me, they all come long ways. And I only went once with the boy to Wyoming. And his wife is Mexican. But she does everything that, you know, is supposed to be done. She takes care of all the cooking. It's real expensive anymore to go that far. And you do have to prepare food and gifts and stuff, you know. And I always make his outfit. He has to have a new outfit every year. They are naked. He has to have he has a skirt, and then he has his apron that hangs on the front. And every year when they do that, they have to have new ones. He has to have new moccasins. You can't wear the same ones anymore.
How come?
I don't know, but that's the way it is. You can't wear the same ones. They are put away. They already, you know, used them for that ceremony. And if you're going to do it again, and my son is real strong. He prepares. It used to be a long time ago that if they're going to do that, they make a vow that they're going to do this thing. What they would prepare themselves with it. They don't do that anymore, and you go without drink and water for 4 days. How do you think? A lot of them can't get up. My son dances till the very end. They dance, you know. They are on the ground, and it's a big, long story. It looks real weird, but he prepares himself ahead of time, you know, like about drinking water, and he takes care of his body and everything before he goes. And he stands up till he's through. He dances. They always tell me, you know, that he's real strong, but it's because he prepares himself. He prays about it, and he, you know, doesn't eat or drink, you know, preparing his body for it. And you don't do that just for nothing. You do it for a purpose, like making a sacrifice. God bless long life for my mother, or for whoever's sick. I had chest surgery, and long life for my mother. My mother will get well. It was his first time.
What time of the year, what season is the Sundance held?
In the summer.
In the summertime. Ooh, when it's the hottest.
Yes.
how long, you said that your parents took you to, did you say Wyoming?
No, South Dakota.
Okay, South Dakota. How long did you live there? How long were you there?
Oh, we came back home as soon as the surveyors allotted me and I was put on the roll, and then we came back home. And I was talking to Mr. Dixon about that. He was trying to find out how old I was when we decided to move up there. I don't know why they decided. I never did hear my father say. My father didn't talk about things so much. Most of the stuff that I have remembered and was from the grandparents. And he died, my grandfather died when I was 10 years old. So he researched all that, and he's sending me, the things. I haven't got it yet. About how old I was when we went back there and how many years we lived there with my grandparents from down here. We went, my mother still had a mother and father, and they died while we were there, and we came back. And he has really researched everything. He even knows my mother. I mean, he could just tell me, he said, your mother was real unhappy. I said, yes. I remember my mother being real unhappy, and I was real hung up on my dad. But my dad didn't want to be Indian. He didn't want us to be Indian. The other kids did. He had real bitterness. I didn't know that till and I married an Indian first. That was my mother's work. She was the honcho.
How come your mother was unhappy?
Well, she was from another tribe, and they wouldn't accept her here. And then my father imbibed in drinking, and she had never known anything about that. She was real unhappy about that. My mother wasn't close to us children. She was sick a lot. That's the way I remember my mother. My mother was tears, and what little I was around her, we was around her more when we lived up there because we all lived in the same house. But I remember my mother being real unhappy. My dad was a happy-go-lucky Jim Dandy. That he didn't want us to participate in Indian things, but those were good memories while we were there. See, my mother was, from her mother's side, they were full-bloods and they were warriors. You ever read the story of the Indians being warriors, and when they were nomadic, they say wild Indians? Not so, not so. Everybody had their thing. They had the warriors that didn't do nothing, and most of the time the warriors didn't ever marry. Well, that was the way it was with my mother. It's uncles, her mother's brothers. I don't know how many, there were 4 or something like that. I don't remember exactly. In the last 5 years, I forgot a lot of things. When my husband died here, I just kind of went blank. And I was only married, he was, a stepfather to my children. But that old man was a wonderful old man. He accepted all my big family, my grandchildren. We raised these 2 children. I just nearly lost my mind. And I've had a real hard time, trying to straighten myself. I don't go to nobody. I do this on my own. All my life, if I get upset about something, I don't go to no psychiatrist or somebody to straighten me out because I know how to do it myself. I pray for myself. I was going to pray for myself before you came. I got behind, everybody kept calling, and I was going to burn cedar and pray for myself, to clear my mind. I didn't know what you were going to do, but...
May I ask a question
Sure,
before she gets away from? She was talking about the warriors, and most of the warriors did not marry. Why?
Because they didn't want to leave children without fathers.
Oh.
They didn't want to leave women and children without fathers. Well, that's the kind of uncles my mother had. And they were just crazy about my little brother and I, because here we go, most of those sisters married half-breeds, and they didn't keep they lost theirs a long time ago. And we were real traditional Indians. We wore Indian clothes all the time. My little brother and I wore, just close together. And we both wore moccasins and boots all the time. We were the Indians. and those uncles were just crazy about us. I remember they did a lot of Indian things for us in honor of ourselves, and we all the time had horses, you know, when we go to gatherings where they put us on horses, put war bonnet on me. The people in the South don't do that. Women up north have long feathers, you know, fans, and they wear war bonnets. Not here. It's the difference in the, you know, north and the south. In this part of the country, you know, the Indian powwows and things are spreading all over. They're all over the east now. And the northern traditional dancing has come to the south too. At first they wouldn't accept them. They used to put my little boy out, Chopper, because he made his costume like, come here. So she said, I know you don't let nobody we don't let nobody wear our clothes. My granddaughter, just the one I raised, she's a real stinker. I don't want nobody putting their skin next to my clothes. She has 2 buckskin dresses. We have different. That's what, as old as I am and dancing, that's what gets the public is the type of clothes that we wear. The old time, the dentillion and the shell dresses, and the elk tooth dress, buckskin dress.
Do the different, like the dentillion and the elk tooth, do these have different meanings? Or is it just a design
it's just
decoration?
just a style.
Just a
style. Of course, each tribe has its style. You know, its style. The Plains Indians, the Sioux are Plains Indian, but they have their. I wear the Sioux boots that my my mother's grandmother made many, many years ago. I still wear them. My moccasins are Cheyenne moccasins, and my buckskin dress is Cheyenne. I never owned a Sioux dress.
How come?
Nobody did make it for me. My mother used to make them, but she died, you know, many years ago. She didn't leave me. In fact, my mother sold a lot of things. She got rid of a lot of things that my Cheyenne grandparents had, and she made the northern style dresses.
Ever hear of a woman called Minnie Hollywood? She was
when they moved, they would, you know, line them up to move, and they would see that children, the older people, were taken care of, and all that.
Can you explain exactly how they moved, and why they moved?
Well, a lot of times they moved
Now these
because
are
both tribes,
okay.
they were allies. That's how a lot of them were mixed up, you know, intermarried. However, I don't know. My mother was, they tell me, was a horsewoman, and she was a trick rider. And they liked to go with the shows. And my father saw her when she was married to the first man at the St. Louis Fair, or somewhere where they had the World's Fair.
Yeah,
he saw my mother. My mother was, well, I looked like my mother except for my hair. I don't have hair like her. My mother had beautiful hair. She was part French too.
And your father saw her at the St. Louis World's Fair, 1904.
And then yesterday we buried one of my mother's cousins, second cousin, at Clinton. I went to the funeral, and that was another reason that I was going to fix myself today. I slept. I'm in an age where I get upset about things, and I don't like to go to funerals because it upsets me for days. And if my grandson knew that I was going to the funeral, he probably wouldn't let me go. I sneaked away and went because I've had a hard time straightening myself up.
You said that your mother, I believe you said it was your mother, was a trick rider. I mean, she was a horsewoman. And you said that they like to go with the shows.
The Suze used to like to go with the shows. They went to Europe and they went all over.
Which shows are you talking about? Like the 101?
The Wild West, the Wild, not the 101. I don't think the Suze, maybe they did, I don't know. But they say the Suze were the first ones. They always tease me about that. They say that I'm just an old show. A show off, yeah.
Perhaps Buffalo Bill, didn't he?
Yeah, uh-huh.
The Wild West
Bill.
Show, Buffalo Bill's Wild
Pawnee
West
Bill.
Show, and Pawnee Bill. I just was curious
Mhm.
because we have several things at the.
I don't know what show it was with, but my father said he saw her there. She had real long hair, and she had a baby that was the oldest girl, I guess. My sister, half sister.
Mhm.
And in the years past, I guess they met again, because I have half Cheyenne, half Sioux relatives here, not close, probably second, third cousins, but you know how we are about that. They are still our brothers and our sisters. And yesterday I saw a lot of people I hadn't seen in 10 years that came to this funeral. People that, like you said, what was a Bear Butte? Well, I never finished.
Yeah.
Well, they have those ceremonies, you know, with those arrows. That's where they brought the arrows out. This man,
In the sacred arrows.
he went in the mountain, and it was like going into a teepee, I guess, and there's books written about it, and they gave him different things and gave directions about how he used to take care of his people, and that these sacred arrows were given to them, and they brought them out. They still have them, and they have ceremonies. Yesterday I saw a man that's half Sioux and half Cheyenne. They all call me sister. I'm one of the elders now, and I had problems this winter, real sick. I had Bell's palsy. My face just twisted, and everybody was concerned. Everybody, because I had a thing to do. I was going to be head dancer for the Cheyennes, and this thing happened to me. It was down here dancing at the fairgrounds with the Oklahoma City Powwow Club, and I was dancing with my elk tooth dress on, and all of a sudden my face just started twisting. Right in the middle part of the dance, my face started twisting, and everybody saw me. I just went on, as long as I didn't hurt or anything. My grandson said, "Go on, finish, don't leave. I'll stand right here with you." And they just stood there and waited for me. We just stayed till the dance was over. And in the morning, I just looked horrible. My face was just all twisted. My eye was all twisted. So he put me in the car and took me over there to one of these priests to do me, cleanse me, and fix me. And he brought me back home, and he called around to see we don't have any Indian doctors anymore over this way in the Cheyenne tribe. We don't have no. They just have priests now, but they're not, they're not doctors. He found a Seminole man, and he called him somewhere way back in the woods over there. And he called him, and you beg and you cry for help for my grandma. Her face is twisted. Okay, you don't have to bring her. Put her to bed and keep her warm and quiet. They were left. My two grandchildren left. They went somewhere way back there. I don't know where. Way back in the woods. He gave them medicine and cleansed her with something liquid, herbs and stuff. This, you wash her body with it. My daughter stayed with me here. They got back towards morning, and they wouldn't let me up. They just kept putting that. They washed me first with that other, and he put it all around our house and the yard. And it was for protection to take away. That's the way we believe.
There is a Creek man here in Oklahoma City. His name is Marcellus Williams.
He's not here anymore.
He's not here anymore.
I just love Marcellus.
Okay, well, I was trying to locate him.
He's not here anymore. I don't know where he is. Somewhere he was in New Mexico, but somebody said he's left there. He we looked to Marcellus for a lot of things, because Marcellus was a medicine man.
Yeah.
He went through all those things, hard things but he kind of misused he started doing little she things, and I guess he had to flee. But we used to go to him for a lot of things. When I had this surgery, he came, and my son didn't want them to do that to me. It wasn't, they did exploratory and they removed my lung. It wasn't necessary. And I lost my voice. I didn't have, that's why I got such a scratchy, old, hard voice. I wasn't like that. I had a real soft, high voice. Now I just got a real bad voice. I just got to where now I could sing again. Sort of. And I don't lose my voice anymore. It's been 12 years. I didn't have no voice for a long time, and he would come every day, you know, and look after me. And I couldn't walk. And I couldn't use my arm. They would walk me, and they'd have prayers for me. And when I had in 6 days' time from the time they brought that medicine, it kept me saturated in my place with that. And it just gradually moved back. Just straightened up. Well, it was still 3 or 4 days, and I had to go and do this head dancing for this memorial. And I cried because I didn't want to, because my face was twisted. And my daughter called the medical doctor. My son insisted I go back over there. So they took me back over there, and he said, "Oh, she'll be all right. It'll take time." He said, "If her nerve isn't damaged, going to her, ear." He said, it's more likely in her eye. He said, because, my eye just turned wrong side out because no tears, and I couldn't breathe because my nose was all swollen on this eye. And he just said, well, there's nothing we can do. He said, she'll eventually get all right. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So we had to satisfy my oldest son. Took me, and this doctor just thinks I'm something else. He said, "Miss Shadlow, you're not going to stay in the house and quit doing all this stuff," because I was booked up for about 6 weeks for something every week. Now, what are you going to do about that? I ain't going to do it. I'm going to stay in the house. I'm never going out again. I just cried, and I just cried. He's a funny little thing. This little bitty old guy. I don't know what he is. He's got big bushy beard, and I always tell the kids that I'm in love with him. That's why I get sick, because I have to see him. Tease the kids. What awful taste you have. Oh, monkey. Anyway, he said, "You're not going to do that. You take her and let her do what she's supposed to do. It ain't going to hurt. People are going to love you just the same, Ann." They took me. That's following Saturday over to Watonga. I was real brave till we got to the door, and I just started getting sick of my stomach. I just threw up all over myself because emotion. They didn't have no mercy on me. They took me in there, washed me up, dressed me, tied my hair things on, and took me back in there. I did the whole thing. Everybody would get up in spite of we never do anything without praying. We never do anything. When the kids are here, if I'm going to I was going to prepare for y'all to come. If we're going to go someplace, we would cedar our house so evil spirits won't come in while we're gone. So I burn cedar, and we all cedar, and we go out, shut the door. Or anything we're going to do, go out there in public, first thing, we have prayer. And then our flag. We always honor our flag. All the time. Anytime. If we're just going to eat together, we pray about it first. We honor our flag. All the time, real traditional Indians, that's the way it is. We never forget. We pray for everybody to go home and find their homes like it is when we all leave.
want to change the subject, but I want to know something more about Gary, Oklahoma. You say that Gary, Oklahoma was named after your grandfather, right? Under what circumstances, I don't know anything about the history of Gary, so I'm going to ask you, under what circumstances was the town founded, and when? And
I don't know when it was founded. Mr. Dixon has researched all of that. He says 3 years he's been researching it. And he told me he had all that down, you know. And my grandfather was half-breed, I guess. And he never wore shoes. He was a scout, you know. I guess before they brought my grandmother to him, they had a store over to Darlington.
And this is Edmund Gary?
That's Edmund. He had younger pictures. They got a monument up in Gary to him. And I guess he's the first one that got mail there or something like that. That's the way I understood. They had a little store there, you know, and the farm was about 3.5 miles from there. And they had money then when we lived out there and we were kids. But he always walked, and he never wore a hat. He always wore his kerchief. Everybody in that area still, you know, talks about it and tells about it. He wore moccasins all the time. He always wore, you know, his little kerchief.
Yeah. What kind of store did he have at Darlington?
At Darlington?
Yeah.
Well, that's where the traders from St. Louis came, and that was a stop there, and they'd go to Juarez. That was a, you know, general store, I guess, where they brought trade goods. And my grandfather, I guess, he was educated. He's the reason the grandpa from Bentsport brought a dairy, cattle, horses, money, and everything to my grandfather so that he would take care of, because my grandmother didn't talk English.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was a beautiful woman. I wish I looked like her. She was real pretty. Even she was old when I remember. She was pretty. She had pretty features. And Grandpa and her both had brown hair. My grandfather had kind of auburn hair from he was white-headed when I, last remember him. But I was real fond of my grandparents. And my grandmother spoke only Indian. So from beginning I spoke Indian, Cheyenne, to begin with.
Yeah.
Then I learned English later, and I learned the Sioux later. I picked it right up.
Now, where'd you learn the Sioux? From who
When
did
we
you
moved
learn?
there.
Yeah.
Because they all talk Sioux, the old people, and they used to tell stories. It was storytelling time. They lived, that's why I have such fond memories of living there, was because she had brothers and sisters, and they all lived right around each other, they were a lot of close together. And we lived community style. We had everything together. They were all Catholics. And the father would come, ever so often from the Rosary Mission, Holy Rosary Mission, and we would have, services. And I was baptized there when they took me back. They baptized me at the Holy Rosary Mission.
Mm-hmm. Is that near Rosebud?
No, that's at Pine Ridge.
Pine Ridge, okay.
I got a letter today from there, from my niece.
Mm-hmm. Where did you start to school?
Please.
Where did you start to school?
I knew that was coming. When my grandfather died, I probably was 10 or 11 years old, something like that. And they took me, my grandmother had a stroke, and they took my brother and I to Concho. I had never been to school. But my grandfather had tutored me at home. And I was way up in math. I knew all my timetable, divide, long and short division, that kind of stuff, probably up to the 9th grade because that's where they put me. And I could read, and just like I am, I was real mouthy. I'll let you know what I think. And that's not Indian. And a big show off. I know it. I know who I am. I know what I am. That's why people know me because I'm friendly to everybody. And Indians are not like that. My kids are not like that. I'm the only one that's like that. I get mad at them because you can't get nothing out of Charles. Dolores does all the talking for him. You can't get nothing out of him. And these little kids that I raised, you can't get nothing out of them. And my own children, when people would come and try to ask them things, if I was always working because I raised them by myself. You couldn't get nothing out of them. Talk. They're all like that. But me, I talk all the time. My husband I used to get mad at him. How come you don't talk to me? And he'd say, I don't need to. You do all the talking for others. To get mad at him.
How long did you go to school at Concho?
Probably 5 years. I finished the 9th grade, and I had 1 year nursing that I won, and they tried to take it away from me because she said I was too young. I said, well, why did you let me take the test? Oh, they had big to do about it. And I was just only about maybe 13 or 14 years old, but I fought them. I just sassed them back and fought them. I said, how come you let me take it if I was too young?
Did you win?
Yeah, I won. I had the 1 year.
Where'd you go to?
They had the hospital there. I lived in, was on duty all the time. I went to school half a day.
What did you study at Concho?
Just elementary. I was teaching most of the time. No kidding. I was a substitute teacher. They still say that, and we were military style. We were up at 5 o'clock in the morning, rain or shine or snow. We were out there doing calisthenics, and we were marching like soldiers. That's the way I was raised. And I had a big barking voice. Left, right, left. Oh, boy. It's like I told my grandson, I said, I'm not bragging. I have nothing to offer but my Indian lore, that's all. I'm not educated. I don't have. I was even they just screamed and hollered and fussed at me. Even Tonky, I fussed about. I was 3 years old. I worked at the Native American Center coordinator. I have to laugh about it. They fussed about it, but they gave me the job, and they've not had anybody since that done all the things that I did. I had preschool up to high school. I taught just a little bit of everything that I know. Nothing was given to me out of a book. The kids made many things. I had the youth council. We used to be on TV. I took them to powwows. I took them to youth councils. I dressed them in Indian. I made them make their things. We made a lot of things. I had about 3 big, when the school was down there, we had 3 big showcases just full of beadwork and stuff. I told stories, and I had the little ones. We were on TV. You know how that goes. They fought me all the time. I give up. Then they still call me. Tonky, call Ann Shadlow. I said, I no longer work for you. Do it yourself. I do it for public school, But when they call me from, I'm an honorary too. When they call me from over there, they ask them to do something, they say, call Ann Shadlow. Who told you to call me? Tonky out. Will you tell him to do it himself? And I love Tonky. People that, say, you just jump and do everything for Tonky. Yeah. I like Tonky. He's hard stuff like me. He never shows the outside world how he feels. I feel sorry for him. He's got bad children. You never know it because he's always just the same. He shows a good front, no matter how he hurts in here. And I admire him. He's self-made, and when you do that, boy, listen. Just a lot of times There's a lot of people that do better things than me, but they ain't got the guts to go out and do it.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us some of your Indian lore?
Like storytelling or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
That's the way they got me in the book, a storyteller. Yeah,
Tell us
I
that.
went to OU last week and told stories. This is a Cheyenne story. You know, it's hard to translate them, but I have several stories that I tell. And most of them in tribes are similar, you know, but they have different characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like down the southern part, it tells stories similar, but they have like prairie dogs, and us we have like prairie chickens or ducks.
Tell us some of the stories.
Okay, I have a story. This is a Sioux story about Iktomi. He was a prankster. He was a little spider, a little brown spider, and he wanted to be Indian so bad. He would just part his little old brown fuzz and tie his little braids, and he had a little buckskin jacket and little buckskin leggings, and he was a prankster, and he was mischief, and everybody was afraid of him. They'd always say, "Oh, watch out for Iktomi." He always trying to get something for nothing. He's always trying to cheat somebody out of food or just anything. So everybody lived apart from him. He had to live by himself because they were all afraid of him. Had this little teepee under this tree. He got up one morning and he got his little blanket and his little magic drum. He was real magic too. He was always doing magic tricks. He came out of his teepee and he shook his blanket and he smoothed his hair and got him. So how am I going to get something to eat today? I wonder how I can find somebody that'll give me something to eat. He took his little blanket and spread it out. He gathered all that dry grass and put it in his blanket and just filled it up, tied it in four corners, packed his little drum and put that on his back. He started down toward the marshes, packing that big bundle. He heard singing and he heard laughing and somebody having a good time. He hurried. He just bent over with that big bundle on his back. When he got down there where he could see what was all these little prairie chickens that was having a picnic, and they were having dancing and singing and having a good time. And he stood over there where they could see him, and everybody was all, "Oh, there's Iktomi." They said, "Everybody be careful, there he is." Iktomi means spider in Sioux. He said, so he was standing there all bent over with that big bundle on his back. "Oh, hello, Iktomi." He said, "Hello, what are y'all doing?" He said, "I'm going over here to another tribe." He said, "I'm going to teach new songs, and these are my songs I'm packing." And they said, "Oh, Iktomi, please stay. Teach us some of your new songs. Teach us some of the new dances." "No, I'm in a hurry," he said. "Did you eat?" "Yeah, we already ate." "Well, okay, I'm in a hurry." So they said, "Oh, Iktomi, please, don't go. Just spend a little time with us." "Okay, all right, okay." Everybody get busy. Pick up all the reeds and make a little wiki up with just one door. You don't need no windows. Oh, they just all got busy and they built a little wiki up with just one little door. Everybody get inside of there. Everybody get inside and all get in the ring. I'm going to sing some new songs. Everybody's going to round dance. So he got in the middle and he started his little drum, magic drum. Everybody keep your eyes shut. If you open your eyes, you're going to have red eyes all the rest of your life. Don't anybody open your eyes. So he was singing and he ran out of that little door while the drum was going and it was singing and drumming. And everybody was dancing around, dancing. We were just going in a circle. And when they come by the door, he had a big stick. He'd knock those prairie chickens in the head and throw them out, you know. Somebody opened their eyes and looked, and he was knocking them in the head. "Oh, everybody run! Iktomi's knocking us in the head. He's going to eat us up." They just flew every direction and just knocked the house all down. And when they all looked at one another, they all had red eyes. So he got cheated. Anyway, he picked up what he had, what few had, this is just a continuation of another part. There's many stories about it. He picked up his Prairie Chickens. I always get mixed up with ducks and chickens. It's intertribal. I can do that publicly. He said, well, I'll go back to he went back to his teepee and he built a fire and he put all his Prairie Chickens in the ashes and covered them up. And this tree had a broken limb and it kept going squeak, squeak. And while he was doing that, that tree would squeak, squeak. Will you quit that? He kept fussing at that tree. When he got them all in the ashes, he climbed up there. I'll fix you. I'll break your limb off. And he got up there and stuck his foot in there, and that limb went back and caught his foot, and he couldn't get down. He looked down. He just try to push and pull his foot out. He was just caught. Pretty soon you looked down the path, and here was coming old man Coyote up the path. Hey, go the other way. Say, I got ducks, Prairie Chickens roasting here. They're just about done. Go away. Say, old man Coyote came and he sat down. I can't get out of this tree. He was just telling him everything. He came and he dug up all and just ate them. There was just bones left. Oh, he was just screaming and hollering. Finally, the wind blew and that limb came apart, and he jumped out of there. There was just nothing but bones there. Oh, another part. He started down. I'm going to have something to eat today. He started down the path again, had his blanket on. He went, there was a great big rock sitting there. He went to that rock and he said, oh, Grandfather Rock, you've been here many, many years. He said, I know. Pity me. He said, pity me. Give me something to eat. He said, I'm hungry. Here, I'll give you my blanket. He said, I know you must be cold. Have mercy. Oh, he just begged. Have mercy, Grandfather Rock. He covered that rock with his little blanket. He stood there and he started down the trail. He went so far and there was a deer. Grandfather Rock gave him a new, fresh deer was laying in the road in the little path. Oh, thank you, Grandfather, thank you. He started butchering that, built a little fire, and the sun began to go down, began to get chilly. Ooh, just start shivering. He said, that's just a rock. I'll just go back and get my blanket. He just left his fire smoldering and had that deer just about ready to cook, and he ran back up the hill and went back to that rock. He said, you've been here many years. He said, you don't feel the cold. Give me my blanket back. He took his blanket back, put it on. He ran back down, and when he got back down, it was just bones. Grandfather Rock took his fresh deer back.
No. That's a marvelous story.
It is.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Let's tell a Cheyenne story. I'll tell a Cheyenne story.
Oh, please do. Oh.
Okay, there was a big encampment. A lot of times when people were sick and they would, move when they died, they'd put them on their scaffolds and move away. They moved for different reasons. Grazing was low, or the buffalo was gone, and they'd follow the buffalo's reason they moved. Well, this father and mother became ill, and they died, and they had 5 boys, I think, or 6 boys. They had 6 boys and 1 daughter. And the children didn't want to leave when they moved. The encampment was moving. They said, no, we're going to stay here. We just plan to stay here. We're not going to move with you. We're going to stay on this camp by a big tree. And she said, I'm old enough to take care of my brothers and sisters. They're old enough to hunt, and we shall just stay. So they left them. They moved away and left them. Well, the boys hunted, and they lived happily for a long time. And one day, while she had a little brother, a little boy, real young, and they always left her and the little boy at home at the teepee, and they would hunt. So when they finally, one day when they were all gone, she heard somebody coming, doom, 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 doom. They looked out on the ridge, and there was a little buffalo, a little young buffalo just running along the ridge, And when he came down the hill and almost to the teepee, he became a man. He came to their teepee. He said, "I've brought you a message from the great white buffalo." You know, the white buffalo was sacred to them. "I brought you a message from him. You are to become his wife. He's coming after you." And oh, she cried. "What do you say?" "No, I don't want to go. I want to stay with my brothers. They need me. I don't want to go." "Well, I gave you the message that that's all I can do. I'm not going." So this man started back up the hill. When he almost got to the top of the hill, he was a little buffalo again. He just went loping down the other side. So when her brothers come in, she said, "A messenger came today from the great white buffalo, and he says I'm to be his wife. He's chosen me to be, and I don't want to go." And she cried, and they all cried. And he said, "No, well, if you don't want to go, you're not going to go. I say you're not going to go." And he said, "Well, we'll build a stockade." So they built a stockade around the tree, around their teepee. They built a stockade all around, a double stockade. They built one row, big poles all around close together, and around second stockade. And he said, "He won't take you, he won't knock it down." So they were all there. They just got the stockade built when they heard all that herd of buffaloes coming. A whole herd of them. They were just boom, 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 just sound like thunder coming. The ground just shook with that whole herd of buffalo that was coming. The white buffalo was ahead of all of them. He was coming. "I've come after my wife," when he got down there to the stockade. And he said, "No, she doesn't want to go. You can't have her." "Well, I'm after her. I'm going to take her." And he told his brothers and his sister, he said, "You all climb the tree, get up in the tree, and you get at the bottom. And don't you look, any of you look down. You all look up." Well, those buffaloes all start butting that stockade. They knocked the first row down. And she cried, and they all got scared, and he made them get up in that tree, and he said, "Everybody look sky. Don't look down. If you do, we're lost. They'll take her." And she was at the bottom, and he stood right at the bottom of her feet, and he took his magic bow and arrow, and he shot it up in the sky, and it just knocked down the second stockade. Went up they went, and those are the 7 stars you see up there in winter months. That's what you call star stories.
Oh, that's marvelous. That's wonderful.
As a child, what kind of chores did you do around the house?
Well, I probably was too small when we lived here to do chores when we lived in, before we went north. But when we went north, when we moved up north, Mr. Dixon said we probably were 4 and 5 years old, my brother. We herded cattle. Every day we herded cattle. We rode horseback because my father, it was all open range. My father built, enclosed my mother's land and my sister's, the older sister, and he had a lot of cattle. We had Shetland ponies and we had horses. He shipped some of the horses when we moved. Some of them he sold. We sold the cattle. He had a special herd of little black cattle when we lived here. But we had a lot of little houses. We had tenants, that did everything, made sorghum and did the gardens and all that kind of stuff. They even cooked. My mother had a black lady for her maid, but we didn't live with them. We had our teepees over there, and we had a house, 3-room house over there with my grandparents, just a little ways from there.
You had your teepees also?
Yeah. I was born in a teepee.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I thought I remembered Juanita Clifford telling me that you were born in a teepee, and I wanted to ask you that. I had heard that. I think that's... Was your mother's teepee or your father's
No,
teepee?
grandparents.
It was your grandparents. Did they make it?
I don't know. Possibly.
I just wondered if maybe
We always
Badlands-
had teepees until we moved away, and we didn't never have one when we come back. Well, we have them now. We had Chopper owned teepees. His father sold it to a museum, but he's got some more for another teepee for him. And Chopper is a Sioux name. It means beaver.
Have you seen the teepee at the museum, at the Historical Society? We have a Sioux teepee.
Do you?
Was made about 1860, 1870. It's a hide teepee, buffalo hide.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't you tell me that they have some repair work they have to do on that, and they don't know how to do it? They don't know how to handle.
What?
Well, the teepee that's in the museum
Son?
would be a good idea. Why don't you talk to them when we get back this afternoon? Because they've got it up right now. It is on display, but it does need repair work, and they're very concerned about it. So we'll pass on the
I can
information.
look at it and see what it is.
We'll pass on the information, and they can get back in contact with Ann. That would be tremendous. We thank you kindly for that, to come and look at it.
But
know what?
up there, we herded cattle every day. We'd, ride the fence and see that the cattle stayed in the fence.
How many head of cattle did you
I don't
herd?
remember we had. And they would go and buy, and we'd ride horseback, and my grandfather was, getting up in years. I forgot, I think he was about 80-some years old when he died. And he built the log house.
How long have you been, is it head dancer?
Head lady dancer.
Head lady dancer.
Well, in raising my, start from the beginning. I married really young, and I had my children. I had 7 children. He died, so I went on raising my children, and I didn't. It was during wartime, and I took my children. I left, and I went to Wichita, Kansas, and I worked, and I took care of my kids, all 7 of them. And then I left him. I left their father. He became ill, and he asked me to come back. Well, the boys were a pretty good size, but they don't remember him because we never was around him. He had TB, and he was dying. He asked me to come back, so I came back. He lived 2 years, stayed around him, but I had never participated in any Indian things because I was with my father. Oh, it's just a bunch of baloney. You don't want to do things like them Indians do. I didn't argue with him, but I was Indian. I did the way I wanted to do. I taught my children the way I wanted to teach them. And I was of the Catholic religion, too. I'm excommunicated now because I remarried. I've been married 3 times. I only had children by the first man. Then I was single a long time. So when I came back, when the children, and he died, after he died, I became involved with the Indian people the other way, the Cheyenne and Arapaho people. I started taking my children, going that way. I dressed them in Indian costume. None of us had ever danced before. They call us white people. They'd always say, here comes them white people. And we participated in the fair over there, in the Anadarko fair. I would dress my kids. The Cheyennes wouldn't have us. They didn't. accept us. The Arapahoes accepted my children and accepted me. So we would participate over there, and then I'd go over there and participate with my children. They start asking us to be head dancing. They must have been in the 50s. But I had these Indian things. I had Indian clothes. I had, you know, everything. And I made things for my children. I bought one of the boys, you know, feather danced.
Uh-huh.
They were not all feather dancers, but I had feather dance costumes. They were all little boys. And we participated in everything, and they start asking us. Ever since then, all my kids used to participate and be head dancers, and then I start having grandchildren, and I start dressing them real little and putting them out, even my white kids, I call them, the two youngest boys. The youngest boy, his kids, they don't anymore. Two of them graduated already. Well, the girl's graduating this time, and I'm not real close with them anymore. I mean, you know, I don't see them that often, but I say like this, I'm glad that my children, he's a policeman in Midwest City, and the next to the youngest lives right over here, and he's OSBI. I'm real proud of my boys. He's got two little boys that are real little yet. But he calls me quite often, and he wants his children to know that and I don't see those other kids often anymore. I used to keep them when they were little, but they're teenagers now, and you know how teenagers are. I don't get around and go and bother them. I don't bother my children. I don't boss them, because they know, I don't have to tell them, they know how they want to raise their kids, and they have white wives, and they participate with things with us, and I just don't boss them. I'm bossy, but I don't boss my children about how they're raising their kids.
Yeah. Isn't there a special ceremony that you go through where you are introduced into the dancing as head dance? What exactly is that procedure? Can you tell us that?
You pay for your right to participate. And my kids are breeds. They're all different, you know, they're mixed breeds. So no matter what little thing they do, I had to make when I started going over there and dancing, they call us white people. I'll be a better Indian than you, and I am. I became a better Indian. They were shocked that I could talk Indian, you know, and real fluent too. They say I got a good mouth and a bad mouth. I'll tell them just exactly how the cow ate the cabbage.
Do you know Josephine Wapp?
Yeah, I worked with her once.
Is she still in Apache?
I don't know where she is.
I was trying to contact her. I met her about 10 years ago.
Been a long time ago. I don't really know where she's at. I don't go over this way this winter. I mean, I don't go to other tribes unless they call me. Yeah. And I go mostly towards this way. I went to Pawnee this winter. Just a couple of weeks ago, I danced at Pawnee for a special thing. Comanches called me. I went over there and danced for a special thing for them. I don't know where Josephine is. She does a lot of, you know, things with her hands.
Where are you going to be head lady dancer at any of the dances?
I'm going home. I'm not getting involved in no summer things. I've been involved with the big powwows in the summertime for the last 2 years, and not this summer, because I'm going back up there.
South Dakota.
When are you going to go?
No definite plan yet.
But you're definitely going.
Yeah, but I'm definitely going, because last summer I was in Dre's here. I've been away from them, but I always go home and visit. They write to me, they call me. I stay in close touch with them. The cousins, first cousins. I have no first cousins here. My father had no brothers or sisters, and I don't have any first cousins. They're just distant relatives. And so I just feel, I always say that's my home because I have first cousins. I have no elders anymore. I am the elder. And last summer I felt real bad. I was real sad and I was just real down because I couldn't go. I didn't have the money and I didn't have anybody to go with. When I go any place, I go a lot of places. I take care of my expenses. If I take somebody, I pay, I don't expect them to. I feed them and take care of them. I went to Little Rock with my friend and her boyfriend, and I took my 2 grandsons. I paid all the expense. Them boys, I was going to stay in the barracks with the rest of the Indians. The boys wouldn't do it. They said no. I said, well, we'll just get double bed and you boys sleep together and I'll sleep. And they said, no, you're going to say we disturb you like you always. So they got me my motel room. And I told the other people, I said, if you're not going to stay in the barracks, you're going to have to pay for your own motel. So they paid for them, but I fed them. We had free meals too, They feed you. But it was a nice trip. I paid for all the gas. I fed them for breakfast. So I couldn't afford to do that last summer.
I ask because I have seen you so many times, and you're such a wonderful dancer, and your costumes are so beautiful. And Joe has never seen you in your costumes. And I was wondering where you might be next time so I could get him over there because I wanted him to see you.
Well, my son, the Lord Charles, told me to stay home this week. He said, and I just wondered, what he was getting at. I forgot it was Mother's Day, and I'm always gone. I'm running away. They'll plan something for Mother's Day, and I'm gone. They get real mad at me. He said, Mother, he calls me Ann. He said, what are your plans for this weekend? I said, well, I'm kind of broke. I said, I didn't make any plans. Those grandsons wanted to go to Austin. I don't have that kind of money. I said, well, we'll see. We're still seeing. They haven't said anything, but I don't want to go because I don't have any money. Anyway, my son said, well, what are you going to do Sunday? Where are you going Saturday? I don't think I'm going anyplace. Okay. What are you going to do Sunday? I don't have plans for Sunday. Well, I want you to stay home Sunday. And I thought, He said, well, it's Mother's Day. He said, didn't I give you a squash blossom once? That's a whole lot of words coming from him.
Goodness.
He comes in and he sits down and he'll sit here. We both sit here. I wait for him to tell me what. He helps me. He gives me money. If I run short, I don't get very much money. And I even work a little bit. He asked me if I was going to work. He said, didn't I give you a squash blossom? And I said, yeah, you did. But I gave it back to you. He said, well, I did give you one, didn't I? And I said, yeah. He did. When I had all that surgery, he came back from New Mexico and he came in. I was just sitting up by then. They propped me up, and I was sitting there. I made a buckskin dress because I needed the therapy with my hand. I couldn't use my hand. Still kind of bum, but I'll use it. And I sat there and cut the fringe and I beaded it. I made one of my granddaughters a buckskin dress. And he came in and he put the squash blossom on me. Big, beautiful, great big squash blossom. Well, he bought me a silver necklace for Christmas. That was funny. Yeah. I went down to Shepler's and this guy that sells jewelry, we see him at shows, And he said, "Well, hello, Miss Pratt." I said, "Well, I come so you could tell Santa Claus what I want." I said, "You see this silver necklace?" I said, "This is what I want, $1,400. You tell Santa Claus I want this." He said, okay, I sure will. He come over there and was looking at it, and he called my son and told him. He said, your mom was down here and she told me to tell Santa Claus I got that necklace. He said, well, you just cheated yourself. I was going to give you a squash blossom, he said, for Christmas. I didn't say anything. I said, well, squash blossom is not my thing. I said, I'm not a Navajo. I'd rather have that silver necklace. I said, oh, I love it. I just love it. So he didn't say anything. So I don't know. Maybe I'm going to get a squash blossom.
Maybe. Oh, what a nice surprise. It's lovely.
I'll show you that, love. Oh, this is my rat's nest. Come here. I'll let her have the buckskin dress.
Well,
Right at the moment, I can't think of anything else. There's so much. There's so many other areas up here about Julia Bent and Vince Fort and all that. We're wearing you out, and we're going to have to come back another time and visit with you.
Oh, would you? Would you come back
we'd
again?
love
Yes, ma'am.
to. We'd
Like to.
love to. Do you have any idea when the book, when Mr. Dixon's book is going to be out?
Probably this fall.
I'm going to be looking for it.
Uh-huh.
And I'll be in contact with you because I would want to have that book. I want you to autograph it for me, would you please? Okay, I want to get that
Oh,
book.
I am honored.
Oh, I
See,
am honored.
He even put about the Sundance and my son in that.
oh, I want to get one too. In
Yeah,
fact,
keep in
I'm
touch
looking-
with me.
I'm looking forward to
Because
it.
I need to put, a lot of these things need to be put down. And he keeps saying he's gonna do that, my son keeps saying, but he's busy. Now that, his wife said they're leaving for Tulsa, and I need to go do some
Well, we
things
can
Are you
before
going
sure
to
they
be
do
leave.
here
that.
tomorrow?
Huh?
You're going to be here tomorrow?
I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going somewhere.
Because I was going to bring that buckskin by, that doe skin.
The what?
The